To start with here, I'm going to open an existing workspace as I already have a pre-made workspace that has a number of points on it. So it's in my training folder and it's called routing. Okay, so my routing workspace is just a normal Maptitude workspace with a couple of extra things here. So it has a layer of sales reps, which could just be a spreadsheet that you've imported. And I have a layer of clients, which again could also be a spreadsheet that you've imported. If I right click on my clients layer and choose new data view, you can see that there's a few additional things in here. So we have some visit dates. We have, I think this is number of visits that I would need to make in those times, as well as the rank, anticipated visit time, and more. So the first step when doing any routing is to open up the routing manager. And that is the button up here that looks like a little car. You can see routing manager. You can also open it by going to tools, routing and directions, and choosing routing and directions manager. Both of these will do the same thing. They will open up the routing manager in what should be the bottom left corner of your screen, but it may be elsewhere. Okay, so you'll notice there's a number of different tools here. So to help figure out which one everyone wants to use, I'm going to be displaying a poll. It's going to ask if your stops will be shown on the map as a layer. Right now, my stops are showing on the map as a layer. I have them, my clients layer in the display manager, but it may be that you want to type your stops manually or that you want to just drop pins everywhere that you want to create a stop. All of those options are available. So we're going to start by using the or adding the stops as a layer on the map. And you can see we already have a layer here. So it's my clients layer. And I created this layer by choosing map and then add table or spreadsheet to a map. And then you just run through the create a map wizard as you would whenever you're plotting any other spreadsheet. It's no different from adding a layer from a spreadsheet in any other situation. That's all you're doing. So if you want to add the stops from a layer, you can click on add locations based on a selection set. And you can choose the layer that you want to add here. And if you have a smaller selection set of stops, you could choose that here. If you have a preset order that you have to go through, you could choose the order from here. And if you have a stop time or arrival time or departure time, you could check these boxes and choose them here. I have an anticipated visit time, which I'll be choosing. And I don't have a pre-made order, so I'll leave that on none. And I'll set the stop name to customer name. Once I hit OK, we can see all the stops get added to the map. Now I also want to add a stop for Frank Turner, who is going to be the start and end location for this whole route. So to do that, I'm going to click on the same button again, which is the add locations based on a selection set. I'm going to change the layer to sales reps, which is my layer that has Frank Turner in it. You can see it only has one feature, and the stop name can just be the rep. So it'll show Frank Turner. So you can see that gets added as the last stop. I want to make it the first stop. So I'm going to right click on Frank Turner down here and choose as start. I also want it to be a complete loop. So I'm going to right click on him again and choose as end. I'll be prompted to set my first stop as my last stop as well. So make sure that the same stop. When I hit yes, you'll see that Frank Turner gets assigned stop 1 and stop 27. And now when I hit optimized, it should give me an optimized route that both starts and ends with Frank Turner. There we go. So you can use any of these tools to add a stop, click to add a stop. You can type in a manual address. You can choose to move a stop at any time, whether you have a route, already on the map or not on the map. So for example, if I want to add to this route, I could choose click to add a stop. And if I wanted to add a stop, let's just say by dropping a pin on Todd Creek over here, I click on this. And then when I hit optimize again, it should include it in my route. There we go. So it's included that stop now. You don't have to have a route already on the map to do this. You can create an entire route just by dropping pins manually. So you can do click to add a stop and click all the locations that you want to go to, and then hit optimize, and it will work just the same. You can also type in an address manually, and that could be any part of an address as well. So for example, if you don't have a street address, but you do have a city and a zip code, or a city and a state, you could use that. For example, I'll type in Broomfield, Colorado, and I'll add that. Actually, not sure where that added that. Let's try optimizing and see where it goes. Okay, so it looks like Broomfield was added to my route, and it should be in here somewhere. It is the third stop. So I can follow this along. Oh, it's right there. Okay. So any of those options will work for adding stops, whether you want to add, part of a route or an entire layer. You can also add a selection set from a layer. So I'll go over that. If you want to clear a route, you can click on the fourth button here, which is clear all locations and routes. So I'll click on that and hit yes. It's going to clear the whole route. Let's say I only wanted to add a selection of points from my layer instead of the whole layer. For example, let's say I wanted to do everything that's south or in Denver and south of it. So let's say I wanted to route all of these points. I could choose select by shape, click once to start drawing, continue clicking to add corners. When I'm ready to close my shape, double click. And before I do that, I have to make sure that my clients layer is the working layer, which it was not there. So I'm going to right click on clients and choose make working layer. And then I'm going to repeat that. So prior to doing any selection, you have to make sure that the layer that you're selecting on is the working layer. So now all my points that I circled in turned red. And now that that's done, I can choose add locations based on a set. And this time, instead of choosing all features, I'll choose that selection that I made. And once again, I'm going to add Frank Turner. So I'll add sales reps and then my one feature, and I'll add my rep. Do the same thing where I right click on him and choose him as start and choose him as end, and then I'll hit optimize. And there you go. So this time it's only going to route those points south. Get directions can be used when you don't want an optimized route. Maybe you entered in a predetermined order when you were creating the route, or if you dropped pins in a particular order and you want to make sure that you only, you keep them in that same order, then you can choose get directions to just get directions for a route. Optimize will reorder the stops to the best order. If you want to create a directions report or export the route to Excel, you can choose either of these options, and I'll show what each of those look like here. So first we'll choose the PDF report. So this gives a complete directions report. It's going to show all the legs of the route. And then at the very end, it should show some information on the route segments themselves and a brief route summary showing the cost and duration. We also have the Excel report, which I will also show. So this is going to show the name of the stop, the time that we should be arriving, and the total route distance, or the accumulating route distance, and the latitude and longitude of each stop. If your stops occur on multiple days as well, you should see a day column with the different days here. So those are the two different types of reports. If you want to reorder any stops, so if, for example, I know that customer 2167 has to be served later in the day and then it can't be served before noon, and I didn't set that in my arrival or departure times, I can move this stop down and then choose get directions to make sure that I get a new route with that in that particular order. We also have options to reverse the stops. So if you want the route to occur in the opposite order, you can choose reverse stops. And, oh, it's because I chose optimize. And then once I hit get directions, it'll show me the route in reversed order. Finally, to save and open routes, you could choose the save route and open route button. Routes will save separately from your workspace, although the layers for the route, like the clients and the sales reps here, will be saved inside the workspace. The route itself will be saved separate. So you have to choose save route. I'll just call this my route. And then if I were to clear this route and choose, I can also clear my selection set. And then choose open route. I can open my route file and my route will open back up. There are also a number of additional settings you can adjust in the itinerary. So options, you can change the color of the routes, you can change the routing layer. So if you only want to use highways, you can. You can also change whether you're doing a fast route or a short route. So whether your route consists of the shortest distance traveled or the fastest time traveled. You can choose whether or not to display stop names. And then you can also adjust driving speeds on different roads. So if you want to prioritize local roads or anything like that, then you can lower the speed of highways and it'll prioritize local roads. You can also adjust additional settings in the itinerary. So if you want to change the starting time and ending time for driving, you can. You can choose to stay at each stop for a certain amount of time. So if you want to stay at each stop for a fixed, half hour, you can check this, or if it's lower or higher, you can scroll up and down here. You can set automatic rests. So if you check this box, you can set an automatic rest of a certain amount of time after either driving time, after a certain amount of hours of either driving time or total route time. And you can also check this box to skip the overnight break. So on mine here, I have a day 1, day 2. If I were to check that box, it would just do a complete route and it would skip that overnight break that I had. Finally, we do have a cost or a trip calculator down here, which shows the cost of the route. You can change how that's set up. So whether that's a flat rate by a certain amount of distance, mine's in kilometers, that's what my system units are in. Or if that's, by gallons, you could set that here.